You have tried everything. You made the promise at the altar. You deleted the app. You told your accountability partner. You cried out to God on a Sunday and meant every single word. And then by Wednesday, you were right back in the same cycle, doing the exact same thing you swore you would never do again. And the shame that follows is almost worse than the sin itself. But here is what nobody has told you. The reason you keep falling is not because you are weak. It is not because you are not trying hard enough. It is because you have been trying to change the wrong thing entirely. Most Christians wake up every single day trying desperately to manage their actions. We tell ourselves, today is different. Do not lust. Do not worry. Do not get angry. Do not fall into that same habit again. But notice something fascinating. Jesus never told his disciples to focus on managing their behavior. He did not walk up to them and hand them a 10-step behavioral checklist. Instead, he looked at them and said one single word, abide. Which begs a massive question. What if abiding changes your brain before it ever changes your behavior? Most of us think sin starts the moment we actually do the thing. But it does not. It starts much earlier. Thoughts become patterns. Patterns become pathways. Pathways become habits. And eventually those habits become your identity. That is why you get stuck in a loop. You slip up and think, I keep doing this because that is just who I am. I am just an anxious person. I am just an angry person. I am just addicted. But Romans 12:2 disagrees completely. It does not say change your actions. It says be transformed by the renewing of your mind. You keep falling, not because of who you are, but because of what your mind has been trained to do. This is where science perfectly catches up with the Bible. In neuroscience, there is a famous principle. Neurons that fire together wire together. Every time you repeat a thought, you are physically digging a deeper highway in your brain. The brain becomes highly efficient at whatever it repeatedly experiences. If you repeatedly experience fear, lust, worry, anger, or shame, your brain builds a 10-lane superhighway for those emotions. It becomes your default setting. This is why willpower constantly fails you. You are not fighting a bad habit. You are fighting a fully built neurological highway. To understand this, better look at King Saul in 1 Samuel. Saul is hunting David out of pure toxic jealousy. But when David spares his life in a cave, Saul breaks down weeping and promises to stop. He experiences a massive emotional breakthrough. But just 2 chapters later, the moment Saul gets stressed and triggered again, he takes 3,000 men and goes right back to hunting David. Why did his breakthrough fail so quickly? Because Saul was trying to defeat a deeply rooted mental pathway using a temporary burst of motivation. He changed his mind for an hour, but he had not changed his mental conditioning. By the next day, his brain let go of the wheel and slid straight back into the familiar pattern. This is exactly what happens to you. You leave a powerful church service saying never again. But the moment you get stressed or lonely, your brain defaults back to what is familiar, not what is holy, not what is true, what is familiar. This brings us to the ultimate answer. In John 15:4, Jesus says, "Abide in me and I in you. As the branch cannot bear fruit of itself unless it abides in the vine, neither can you unless you abide in me." Abiding is not trying harder. Abiding is remaining connected. Think about your smartphone. When the battery is at 1%, you do not yell at it to try harder. You plug it in. So the phone does not manufacture electricity. It simply stays connected to the source and the power flows naturally. A branch does not strain and grunt trying to produce a grape. It simply rests connected to the vine and the fruit comes naturally. Fruit is not the goal. Fruit is the natural consequence of connection. Here is the secret that keeps millions of Christians trapped. Most believers think I need to change first and then I can go back to God. Once I get my act together, once I stop this habit for a week, then I will pray again. But Jesus flips that completely. He says, stay with me while I am changing you. Think about Peter walking on water in Matthew 14. As long as his eyes were fixed on Jesus, he defied gravity. The moment he shifted his focus to the storm, he began to sink. And Jesus did not stand there with crossed arms saying, get yourself together and then come back. Immediately he stretched out his hand and caught him. Abiding does not mean running to God after you have succeeded. Abiding means running to Him before success, during failure, after failure, in the middle of the mess, every single day. When you understand this, sin loses its grip completely. Most people fight sin by trying to cut off the bad branches of their behavior. But if you cut off a branch, what happens next season? It grows back because the roots are still healthy. Abiding does not attack the branches, it attacks the root system. When you stay deeply connected to the presence of Jesus, your underlying desire structure begins to shift. You do not just gain more willpower to resist things you love, you actually stop loving the things that harm you. The old habits do not just become forbidden, they become unappealing compared to the fullness of what you found in God. What does this look like practically? Abiding is not a permanent emotional high or worship music playing 24 hours a day. Abiding is the simple, repeated practice of returning your attention to Christ. When anxiety hits at your desk, you do not spiral, you return. When temptation flashes, you do not entertain it, you return. When you fail and shame tells you to hide, you return. The power of a holy life is not perfection. The power is in the returning. Every single time you pull your mind back to Him, you are firing a new neural pathway and rewriting your brain one moment at a time. So maybe the answer to the habit you have been fighting for years is not trying harder. Maybe the answer is abiding deeper, because whatever you consistently abide in will eventually shape what your brain expects, what your heart desires, and ultimately who you become. Stop striving. Just abide.